It's time now for Mental Health Matters with your host, Lisa Reimer. Mental Health Matters is graciously underwritten by New Vision Eye Center, world-class eye care on the Treasure Coast. New Horizons thanks Dr. Paul Minotti, Dr. Stephen Tate, Dr. Robert Reinauer, and Dr. David O'Brien. Now, here's Lisa Reimer.
Mental health matters. Yes, emotional well-being is vitally important, but it's more than just that. Mental health issues can impact a person's physical health. It can influence their behavior and even dictate the course of an entire life. Hello, my name is Lisa Reimer, and I'm the host of Mental Health Matters and a communications officer for New Horizons of the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee. And if you don't know what New Horizons is, we are the most comprehensive mental health and addiction recovery agency in this region. We help 14,000 people every year across 4 counties. We have 9 offices, including our main campus in Fort Pierce on Midway Road. We have 100 inpatient beds there where we house people who are dealing with detoxification from drugs and alcohol, who are dealing with a 28-day substance abuse program, who are in one of our crisis units for adults or another one for children. In fact, today's mental health issue is about children in crisis. And here to talk about that is Leirus John, who is a recent graduate from Indian River State College. And what is your degree in?
Human Services.
And you worked while you were getting your bachelor's degree at New Horizons.
I did. I worked on the Children's Crisis Unit.
And you also did your internship where?
I did it at Counseling and Recovery Center on Orange Avenue in Fort Pierce. It's a recovery center for women who, were addicted to drugs.
So it's not children?
Not children.
Okay.
It was for women.
Okay.
Women only.
So let's start with the children, because we'll talk then about children and women in crisis situations. So when I give tours of New Horizons, I only, because I'm not a clinician and I'm not a direct care worker, and there are HIPAA laws which protect the privacy of our clients of every age. So unless I have a need to know, there's not really a need to tell me, the communications officer, about the individual clients. But we do see some trends in the children's unit. Will you tell us some of the most common reasons that bring children in for a Baker Act receiving facility?
It can differ kind of all across a wide panel, but a lot of the times kids are coming in from school. That's the biggest trend that we notice. It can be because their counselor sent them, because their counselor felt that they weren't safe, because they told a friend something and then the friend went and told someone, maybe a school officer or a counselor at school.
Such as like cutting themselves?
Yes. So they've either written something and handed it to a friend. They've texted a friend something. A lot of times we get kids that post on social media, Snapchat, for example, and they say something along the lines of, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to live in this world anymore. I'm tired of this. And friends or, concerned mothers, fathers, whoever it may be, will go ahead and call the police or counselors, and then they will be Baker Acted. That's the biggest trend that we see there.
So New Horizons has a children's crisis unit with 20 beds. Actually, just to give you a little bit of background, before 2010, there were 4 crisis beds on the Treasure Coast for children. And then we built this 20-bed unit. And those 4 beds, the first 4 beds, were at the Center for Behavioral and Emotional Health here in Indian River County. So we built a 20-bed unit, and then they added another 4 beds to the Center for Behavioral Health. And so now there are 28 beds across the whole Treasure Coast for children. I believe that New Horizons is the only Baker Act receiving facility for children over the age of 12, so 13 through 17. So we are dealing with children as young as 6, and they've been as young as 4 years old in this Baker Act receiving facility,
right.
And up to the age of 18. Now, a Baker Act is a protective court order that is for people who are a danger to themselves or others. So you're seeing children coming mostly from school after writing or communicating some kind of self-harm?
Yes. Like I said, it's a broad spectrum. We get them from, I mean, it could be really any, a doctor, anything. But what I saw the most was definitely from school. A lot of school Baker Acts were coming in throughout the day. So usually Mondays through Fridays were definitely our busiest times, usually between those school hours, because like I said, a lot of the kids would come in due to some kind of a statement they would make or something they would write, and then they would be Baker Acted to us.
So, we while we have 20 beds, we see an ebb and flow over the year, where our census is at maximum capacity every day during the school year, particularly during times of testing.
Yeah.
And then there's more vacancies during the weekends,
right,
and during the summers.
Right.
Now, sometimes people can think, oh my gosh, are they faking it? Are they just trying to get out of the tests? Which it seems pretty extreme to get out of testing and doing some threat of self-harm. Is it because of anxiety, the level of anxiety?
Yes, I think when you first start working there, I think you definitely get that feeling of, how could this be? There's no way that a test could bring on such emotions for a child or a teenager. But I think once you really start looking at it, it definitely can impact them, especially nowadays. I think children and adolescents have such pressure for good grades, to be a popular child, to have a great number of friends. And I think it really starts building up. And I think the littlest things, such as like an exam or bringing home an A, that can impact their life. And I think even though some people are like, oh, well, it's just an exam, we all have to take them. I think it gets to the point where, come exam time, I think it does impact them in a big way. And I think that's why they come in.
I just have to say, I've been making all the mistakes as we've been interviewing, and I'm just so impressed, Leirus, with your delivery and the fluidity of your thinking, and what you've been trained to do is really coming across. So, do you think that bullying plays a big part, like school, the peer bullying?
Yeah, I think it plays a huge part in it. Even when I was growing up, I think it played a huge part then, but it wasn't necessarily as widespread because social media wasn't such a big thing back then. And I think nowadays it's like 1,000% more relevant because it's coming from everywhere. It's not just coming on a Monday through Friday, for a class period when you see someone that you don't like. It's coming in all directions. It's coming when you wake up in the morning and they check their Twitter, their Instagram, their Facebook. It's coming from text messages everywhere. And then they get to school and it's still there. It's something that they can't escape. It's not something that they can go home, at 3:30 p.m. and they're like, okay, I'm done with that for today. No, because now almost every child has a cell phone. And so, and they have all these connections that a lot of times, sometimes I hear about and I'm like, I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't even know that existed. So I think bullying has gotten to a point where it's so hard to control. No matter what the principals, school workers, counselors do, it's just so hard to maintain because it's so widespread. It's so accessible nowadays. So I think that bullying is a huge part of it because you can just get on a cell phone and text someone terrible, terrible things that I've seen, that kids have told me on the unit. And it's just like, I can't imagine dealing with that every single day.
So you were a counselor's assistant on the unit. What were some of the things that you did with the kids to help them work through these issues?
So, as a counselor's assistant, I usually held groups for the kids, either therapeutic or educational groups or a mix between both. I really liked to talk about topics such as home life, and, bullying was one of them as well. I really like to talk to them about the future as well. I remember one of my favorite ones to do was just kind of list different sections of their life and just say, in 1 year, where do you want to be? In 5 years, where would you like to be? In 10 years? Because a lot of the times these kids don't get asked that. A lot of times it's just bring home an A or, this person, you should be dating this person, or those kind of things. But they never get asked, what is it that you want? What is it that you want out of your life? You know, if you had to choose, you know, don't worry about money, don't worry about education, don't worry about whatever it may be. What is it that you want? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? You know? And at first they're quiet. They don't like to say anything. But then they really open up. You know, when one person says, well, really in a year, I'd just like to graduate high school, or I'd like to, you know, not be in places like this, whatever it may be, you know, they start opening up more and more. And it's those kind of groups that really get some thinking, you know, I've been open about this. I'm honest about it. Maybe it's something that I can really start looking into. And then we start talking about those goals. Well, you know, you want this. Well, let's start. You know, where can we start doing this? You know, is it in school? Is it going to be through your parents? Is it going to be through a job? You know, and it's those kind of things that kind of gets them thinking about a future, you know.
Do they mostly have home lives? I mean, parents, supportive parents. When you were now, you know, the hundreds and hundreds of kids that you have worked with, would you say 50%? Because we do have a large population of children that are in foster care.
Yeah. I would say less than 50% probably had a good home life. The rest were definitely kids that were either in DCF custody or, you know, the foster system, or just had a very broken home life. Were still with their parents maybe, or maybe one parent, but it just wasn't a good situation at home. The other kids, well, from what we knew, possibly had a good home life, but, you know, there's home isn't everything. You know, they could be troubled outside of the home, in school, you know, maybe on social media, at sports, whatever it may be. But I would say less than 50% had a good support system at home. The other, I would say maybe 65% really didn't have that support system.
So actually you doing those kinds of exercises and was really important to them.
Right, because like I said, they had never had someone ask them that. They had never had someone say, hey, how are you? You know, hey, what is it that you want? You know, tell me. It's okay. You know, say it to everybody. You know, don't be afraid to say, well, I want to change my hair color. Even just simple things like that, you know, you realize were a huge deal to them. You know, changing their hair color, cutting their hair, you know, a lot of gender differences there that maybe parents didn't understand. Just little things like that just really made their, you know, their group, their day, and then they were able to face, you know, maybe home a little bit better.
When we get back from this break, I want to talk to you a little bit about success stories, and then we're going to talk about the women that you helped.
Okay.
So we'll just take a short break.
Are you a therapist or a nurse seeking the multi-state compact license? In the state of Florida, these and many other industries require a Level 2 live scan background check for clearance to work in your industry. A1A Fingerprints is your certified live scan source from Broward to Brevard. And if you're a medical provider, you need to be registered on the ACA web portal. A1A Fingerprints will help you navigate and comply with the law. Call 772-494-6556 or visit A1AFingerprints.com. A1A Fingerprints. Come to Mulligan's. Not only will you savor great food and drinks, but you will also do so enjoying the best view of the Atlantic Ocean in all of Vero. Whether it's starting the week with a sunrise breakfast or enjoying a sun-filled day with live music on the weekend, you'll feel like you're on vacation. Try their monster fish and chips, lobster roll, or cool, crisp salads alongside their legendary tropical drinks. It's all waiting for you and the entire family at Mulligan's Beach House on Beachland Boulevard, Vero Beach.
If you have been considering cataract surgery, it's time to explore dropless cataract surgery at New Vision Eye Center. With this procedure, there is no need to use eye drops in the days and weeks following your surgery. For many patients, this option is liberating. Consult with Doctors Paul Minotti and Stephen Tate. You will always benefit from the latest technology at New Vision Eye Center. Call New Vision Eye Center for a consultation or second opinion. Your eyesight deserves world-class eye care. Visit newvisioneyecenter.com or call 772-257-8700.
Hi, Tom Rhodes here, owner of 7 Sparkling Clean Sunshine Laundries. Summer is here, and we're changing clothes a lot more with this heat, and the pile of laundry gets higher and higher. Our solution at Sunshine Laundries is big load machines that makes the job of washing and drying happen fast. Dryers that won't dry only cause people to be unhappy. At Sunshine Laundries, our dryers start hot, stay hot, and dry fast. We're at sunshinelaundries.com.
Sunshine Laundry is a member of the ITEX trading community. If
Green Marlin. Check out their specials all week long. Like Monday, buy a salad bar, get one free, 11 to 3. After 4, get a whole Maine lobster, $16.95 while they last. Wednesday night is Buck a Shuck. Dollar oyster nights from 4 to 7. Prime rib dinners every Thursday through Saturday while they last. The Green Marlin, the biggest and best all-you-can-eat Sunday brunch, too. Family-friendly seafood and more. $14.75 US 1 in Vero. A fresh experience. Go where the locals go.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. I'm Lisa Reimer, and if you just joining us, you missed the first part. We put these videos on our Facebook page, New Horizons Mental Health. We're talking to Lee Marajan, and she worked at New Horizons in the Children's Crisis Unit, and she's telling us about now some of the success stories. Now, the Children's Crisis Unit, since it is a Baker Act receiving facility, you only see these children for up to 72 hours, sometimes longer than that. And actually, sometimes much longer, because if they are in foster care and the foster family doesn't want them anymore, which happens, unfortunately, with quite some frequency, then we have to find them a place to live.
Right.
So, but do you have success stories because you have a limited amount of time seeing them?
Right. So I think for us on the Baker Act unit, at least, a success story is really all about the child leaving the facility in a better state than when they come in. If they're leaving in a worse state, which rarely ever happens, but if they're leaving in a state which they were worse than when they come in, for us, it's not a success story. So I really count every child that came in and left with a little bit more hope, with a little bit more knowledge, with a little bit more education as a success story. What even brought it further than that was, knowing that they were going to their outpatient therapy appointments, knowing that they were keeping track with their medicines, maybe learning that they joined a sport, or maybe learning that they were able to talk to a father or mother or a brother or sister who they had never really talked to before. That for us is the little successes that make a big success story in a child's life.
And of course, if they don't return.
Right. And if they don't come back, that is a huge statement as well, because we do get some frequent, children that do come back. And those are the ones that we really have to work extra hard on.
Yeah. I mean, even in the adult populations, what we see is people, they get stabilized in a Baker Act receiving facility, which is why they're there, to remove them from the crisis stimulus. And so they're removed from that stimulus and then assessed and given a treatment plan, perhaps prescribed medication. And then they go back out and they're taking their medication, and sometimes the medication doesn't work. Or maybe they start feeling better and they say, I don't need this medication. I don't need this. There's nothing wrong with me. Then they get off. They start decompensating, is what we call it, when they start regressing. Their behavior starts unraveling, and then they end up back in a Baker Act receiving facility. So you see the same thing in children as you see in adults.
Yes, exactly the same thing. I couldn't have worded it better. I mean, and it's sometimes, the children obviously aren't 100% in control. So a lot of times it's the parents that say, oh, well, my child's better now. Or, oh, I don't want my child on that medication, which is, 100% they're right. But yes, sometimes we do see children that do come back. And sometimes we see children that come back, honestly, because New Horizons Children's Crisis Unit is their safe zone. They're not coming back because of medicine change or because of any of those things, but they feel safe there. They feel like they have a home, like they have people that care about them, whether it be just the techs or the therapist or the manager or whoever it may be. So sometimes we see that as well. We see that kids come back because they feel so safe, and they don't feel that when they are out in the real world.
Yeah, so we talk a lot on the show about childhood trauma and how that impacts a person's physical health, behavior, and even the course of an entire life. And so we see that children who have these adverse childhood experiences in their youth, and if they are not healed, if they don't go through the processing of that, those experiences, they tend to become full-blown addicts by the time they're adults. So now you're working at this, did your internship at this counseling center with women mostly in their 20s, but over the age of 18. So did you see that these women who are there, were they impacted by childhood trauma?
Oh, yes. I would say, honestly, where I worked or where I interned, it was, I believe, 15 beds, and all 15 women who were there at a given time all had some kind of childhood trauma. They did daily groups, probably around 3 to 4 groups a day. And each one really tried to focus on the trauma that they had dealt with when they were younger. A lot of it was, sexual abuse, maybe some violence growing up in their home. But I did notice that there was that trend that I used to see on the Children's Crisis Unit where they turned to drugs because they weren't taught how to cope with their drama. They weren't taught how to cope with their feelings of anger, of being ashamed, whatever it may have been. So they turned to drugs. And that's what I saw when I went to the internship working with these women, is that that's exactly what was going on. They were in their 20s, some in their 30s, and they still were like a child. They, lashed out. They, wanted to do drugs, but they had no idea how to cope. And that's what was going on.
And so then what does the program teach them?
So the program is a residential program. Mm-hmm. It's a 90-day program for most of them. Some of them graduate a little bit earlier. And it, they do groups every day. They obviously are drug tested every week. And they have a one-to-one counselor that they speak with every day. And they, provide them with services. They take them to New Horizons. They, take them to AA meetings. They take them to NA meetings. Court, whatever it may be, medication.
How did they get there? Are they referred there? Are they court ordered into the center?
So I actually found out halfway through interning there that there is a long wait list for CRC because it is nonprofit, first of all, so it's not based on insurance. A lot of them are court ordered there from jail or from, some kind of a rehab place. And then a lot of them actually go voluntarily. Now, if you do go voluntarily, you have to wait in that waiting list. The only way that you'll get up to the top of that list is if you are pregnant or if you are a current IV needle user. Mm-hmm. So those are the two categories that you would kind of get up ahead of everybody else because there is such a demand for, helping women and women who are pregnant, because a lot of places don't take in women who are pregnant and drug abusers. So that place is very highly needed.
Right. So we have about a minute left, and I'd love to talk more about this, and we'll have you back on the show at another a date. So what do you think, just in overall, and when you look back at the last couple of years of your schooling and your work, what do you think is the most important thing that we teach our children at home so that they don't get into these high anxiety situations?
I think it's important to teach kids that they have someone, and it's important for us to be seen as role models to them. I think a lot of times now, kids don't have that role model in their life. They don't have someone to look to. They don't have someone to share their emotions with. And I think it's important for them to see, it might not be your mom, it might not be your dad, but there is someone there in your community. In your friendships, whatever it may be, it's important to let them know you are not alone. There's many other people that suffer with anxiety, depression, and so on. And I think it's important to let them know that they're not alone and they can always talk to someone, whether it be the 211 call or whatever it may be. It's important for them to see that they can look up to someone and just talk to someone. Sometimes that's all they need.
So what do you want to do next?
Next, I'm kind of just figuring out what I want to do with school. I want to further my school and my education. And I'm just, on the lookout for a job that I can help people. I've worked with people since I was 18 with human beings, and it's something that I love to do. So I think I connect really, really well with people, and that's just what I want to keep doing.
You have a very gentle presence. Thank you so much for being here. So we will be talking about the ACE study in the next interview. So stay tuned to Mental Health Matters. The ACE study is the adverse childhood experiences that we refer to, and it's very important that we understand the impact of trauma and what goes on in the household on kids' lives and their emotional well-being.